You call it terrorism, I call it patriotism. You hear me? Die.
That is not me. That is not me. That's not him. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
The first case pertains to Travis McMichael Gregory and William Bryan. A young black man named Ahmed Arbery went for a jog on February 23, 2020 in Satilla Shores, Georgia. He had no idea that a racially motivated hate crime would cut his life short. As Ahmed attempted to flee in his truck, 3 white males took him for a burglar and pursued him in their trucks, blocking his route. What happened next is shocking and disgusting. The McMichaels were armed, while their neighbor William Roddy Bryan was in another vehicle. After overtaking him in his truck, Travis McMichael assaulted a mod with a gunshot. As Travis McMichael fought for his life, a mod was fatally shot. Ahmed's murder was captured on Bryan's cell phone. While the Glenn County Police Department responded quickly, things only got worse. It has been more than 2 months since an arrest was made. That's right. It was a free world for 60 days for these men. George Barnhill, the district attorney for Waycross, and the Brunswick District Attorney's Office instructed the GCPD to make no arrests. After Ahmed's murder went viral in a video and social media, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation made no arrests. Racial profiling in the United States was questioned after the local authorities indignantly treated the case. Several religious leaders, politicians, athletes, and celebrities criticized the act. An indictment was filed against former Brunswick District Attorney Jackie Johnson for hindering law enforcement and showing partiality to her former deputy. Christopher M. Carr, Georgia's Attorney General, publicly requested help from the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Let's see if justice was served in the investigation. On November 20, 2021, 3 men were convicted of felony murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit false imprisonment. The Bryan was sentenced to life imprisonment with a possibility of parole after 30 years. The other 2 were sentenced to death and life imprisonment without parole plus 20 years. Did these men show remorse in a court for their actions? No. The men showed neither guilt nor reaction when their sentences were read. Since Ahmed's murder, Georgia has enacted hate crime laws and repealed and replaced its citizens' arrest law. Heinous acts are happening across the country, not just in Georgia. Next is Russel Cortier. This is Russel Cortier. Lionel Bruce Jr., a black adolescent, was killed by Russel Cortier, a white supremacist and prison gang member. A violent altercation with Bruce Cortier occurred outside a 7-Eleven in Gresham, Oregon, just outside Portland. Bruce was struck by Cortier's Jeep as he drove towards him, causing severe injuries that led to Bruce's death in a nearby hospital. Things got interesting during the trial. According to prosecutors, the Cortier joined the European Kindred gang because of his racist desire to belong to a brotherhood. David Hannon, the prosecutor, stated that the jury determined that Cortier was motivated by his opinion of Bruce's skin color or race. In addition, Russell was found to have a European Kindred tattoo on his leg. European Kindred is Oregon's largest racist prison gang, and Russell was proud enough to have their shield tattooed on him. The lawyer for Cortier said that when the tattoo came up in court, so since it's almost 20 years old and because it's the largest organization in the country, the symbol EK, or European Shield, has made its way into the Oregon community, where people might be able to recognize it if it were outside. Bruce's family attended the sentencing. Bruce's birth mother, Christina Miles, addressed Cortier. "You let the devil lead you astray and take the life of such a lovely young soul. Why? Could you explain why?" His mother defended Russell despite all the evidence presented about how racist he was. The jury found Cortier guilty of 3 counts of murder, failure to execute driver responsibilities, and a hate crime violation. In the end, he was convicted of life in prison after a lengthy legal battle, and he will have to serve at least 28 years before he can be released. Bruce can't be brought back, or his family's pain can be erased. Especially for people like Jeremy Christian, this punishment should remind us that hate crimes have no place in our society. This is Jeremy Christian, who self-identifies as a white supremacist. An eastbound Green Line Max train loaded with hundreds of people travelled to Clackamas town centre on a bright spring day in May 2017. The drive started out as a typical one but quickly turned into a nightmare. Jeremy Christian hurled two black teenage girls hate speech and discriminatory language while he was drunk. Among them was a Muslim woman wearing a hijab. According to witnesses, Christian continued yelling about decapitating heads until the train operator threatened to call the police. There was an attempt to stop Christian from yelling at the girls by Michael Fletcher and Talisin Murden Namkai, but the situation got worse. With 11 seconds to spare, Christian stabbed Fletcher, Namkai and Ricky. Fletcher was hospitalized with a large gash across his throat after Ricky and Namkai died under horrible circumstances. After attempting to flee the train with a knife, Christian was apprehended and admitted to stabbing the conductor. The tragedy stunned Portland community members, wondering how such a tragic event could happen. There are 9 charges against Christian: 2 counts of aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, first-degree assault, 3 counts of unlawful use of a weapon, and 2 counts of intimidation. Nevertheless, he displayed no remorse and misbehaved with the victims' relatives in court. Next up are Kayla Norton and Jose Joe Torres. A highly publicized incident occurred between Kayla Norton and Jose Joe Torres in 2016. In Douglasville, Georgia, they targeted an African-American family attending a child's birthday party. The incident was racially motivated and aimed at intimidating and spreading fear among the victims and their community. Norton, Torres, and their accomplices drove around in pickup trucks, flying Confederate flags and shouting racial slurs at party attendees. They also made terroristic threats and brandished firearms, creating a hostile and threatening environment. The incident was captured on video and later circulated widely, leading to public outrage. Their actions drew national attention and sparked a significant discussion about racism, hate crimes, and the importance of promoting inclusivity and equality. Norton and Torres faced charges of aggravated assault, terroristic threats, and violating Georgia's Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. In 2017, they were found guilty and sentenced to prison. The trial and subsequent conviction were a stark reminder of the consequences of perpetuating hate and discrimination. This highlighted the need for justice and accountability in such cases. As the trial progresses, we witness various emotions from the defendants. At times, they display remorse but also frustration and disbelief over the severity of the charges they face. Norton and Torres' reactions vary. Norton is visibly distraught, while Torres remains stoic. The judge hands down the sentences, reflecting the gravity of the crimes they committed. This is Edgar Kay Killen. Edgar Kay Killen was a former Ku Klux Klan leader and a key figure in the civil rights movement era in the United States. He was born on January 17, 1925 and died on January 11, 2018. Killen gained notoriety for his involvement in the murders of 3 civil rights activists, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, in 1964. The 3 activists who were working to register African Americans to vote in Mississippi during the Freedom Summer were abducted by members of the Ku Klux Klan on June 21, 1964. Killen, along with other Klansmen, were implicated in planning and orchestrating the murders. The victims' bodies were buried in an earthen dam 44 days after their disappearance. However, justice took several decades to be served. Killen was tried in 1964 but was acquitted by an all-white jury. The case was reopened in 2004, leading to a new trial. In 2005, he was convicted of 3 counts of manslaughter and sentenced to 60 years. Killen maintained his innocence and showed little emotion in the courtroom. He did not testify on his own behalf, show remorse for his actions, or express any kind of reaction when a guilty verdict was read. Killen's demeanor throughout the trial was stoic and impassive. Killen's lack of emotional response and refusal to show remorse for the murders he was convicted of contributed to the perception of him being an unrepentant figure from the civil rights era. Despite the overwhelming evidence presented during the trial, including testimony from former Klansmen who implicated him in the crime, Killen maintained his innocence until he died in 2018. Undoubtedly, these all were evil enough for the nation and deserve nothing less than a life sentence. If you thought these people were wrong, watch the next video, as it would blow your mind as you can see how far evil can reach.